Hey, this week on the 167, we're talking about how Jesus encourages people to not take the prideful place, but to take the place of humility and let God elevate them. Welcome to the 167.
1, 2, 3, let's go!
Welcome to the 167. Hey, there are 168 hours in every week, but we usually only spend one in church. And so, what do you do with the other 167 hours? You spend one of them with us.
Yeah.
Or like half an hour,
Or-
40 minutes. You know, we're
It
going to eat
dep-
up some of your time.
But I mean, it takes time. You should be like, spending 10 minutes in preparation in prayer and going, Lord, please prepare me for what I'm about to hear because it's going to be wild.
Yeah.
And then you're going to need like 5 minutes afterwards to decompress.
I like Carissa's promo very. Join us and let us eat up some of your time. It's like, hey, we're not going to oversell anything.
No, I mean,
It's-
don't have your expectations
I
too
know.
high,
You
right?
just- we're just going to eat some time
We're
up.
just going to chat for a half an hour, right?
Speaking of eating,
Speaking of eating,
look at that transition.
Boom.
Speaking
you're
of eating,
welcome.
we're in our series Dinner with Jesus, and we're talking about all the times that happen, or at least 4 of them.
That Jesus
Yeah.
eats
All
with
the
people.
times. Well, 4.
We're going to eat up some time with 4 sermons. No, with Christ, where he's eating with people and significant things happen. It seems like that happens a lot. Like I usually have a professor in Bible college who said, I just know one thing about Jesus, that he loved to eat.
We did. Lots of food.
So we talked a little bit this week about where you sit at the table. We talked about honor and pride and humility. And so my question to you to start off is this, and I want to, if you are a listener at home, I want you to put this in the comments, like and subscribe on YouTube, but you can put this in the comments. If you are going to a party where it is a long table, right? So maybe it's a business lunch. We just had staff lunch for our quarterly staff meeting yesterday, and you go to the restaurant and they've done the thing where they pushed all the tables together and there's just this long, kind of get up where it's just, you can pick one side or the other, or there's the 2 end seats. Where do you want to sit? Is it by a friend? Is it like in a location, like by a specific person? Or are you like, I want to be at the middle of the table because I can like talk to everybody, or I want to sit at the end of the table? Like, where do you want to sit?
This is very situational for me, depending on who is there. So most of the time, I will choose to sit by someone that I know I can engage in conversation with. I do enjoy sitting in the middle in certain contexts where, like you said, because it's the ability to like, I don't know, this is maybe a mom thing, maybe a teacher thing, but like I have the ability to listen to multiple conversations at the same time. And so sometimes that's fun, again, depending on who all is there. But if I don't know everyone at the table, it's like I'd like to be at the end in a corner, maybe next to someone I know that we can talk and I can engage with that person if I don't know everyone at the table.
Yeah. So we just had the dinner at our house, and
Yeah.
it was long. So we had 20 people. Trudy and I sat on the far ends.
Like
And
opposite?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then there were 9 people on
Yeah.
each side of the table. So it was long, and so we chose to sit at the end because it's just kind of an awkward place
Sure.
to sit, and
Right.
so we just told our guests, you can sit wherever you want. Trudy and I are going to sit at the ends because it's a little awkward because you can see people, you can't really talk to them way
Right.
down there,
Right.
and so, but that was a unique dinner. Typically, because I'm the most humble person that I know.
Like Moses.
Yeah,
You're like Moses.
no. So I typically wait. Like I don't want to be the first one, so I'll just gauge wherever people feel that I'll
Take the empty seat.
Yeah, we'll just sit wherever. So there have been times at our house when we've had like the step 1 dinner, and and we say, hey, sit wherever you want. And I don't think people really think through fully. So there are times when there's one chair here, and then over there's another chair. So Trudy and I are not sitting
Right.
together.
Right.
Everybody sits in couples or whatever, and it's like, all right, we'll just sit.
Yep.
So, but
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to us. It's the place you sit to us is not that important. So
It's funny when you go to a thing like that and there'll be a couple and then they'll leave a buffer chair and then another couple will sit and be like, who do you think is going to sit in that chair?
yeah, it's kind of, which brings up with the the seats and the seating arrangement at home, like growing up and even now, when you sit down, are there assigned seats or like?
Oh my gosh,
is it
yes.
your seat?
Yes.
Yes. So,
We have this in that we eat dinner rarely together, all 6 of us now, but when we do, Lucas and I have assigned seats.
Yeah.
And we have an oval table, but we sit on the ends, and then there's 2 spots on each side for the girls, and they alternate and they rotate, but we have
'cause-
assigned seats.
Well, because
You
one
can't
side's a
sit in-
bench and
yeah.
one side's 2 seats.
But you can't sit in dad's chair or
Yeah,
mom's chair,
yeah.
right? Like we have.
yeah. So it seems like in family
Yeah.
dynamics, it's you get out of my chair.
Right,
That's where I
right.
sit.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
it's been one of my favorite hypocritical things that I do as a parent, where I'm just like, because they'll sit there and like occasionally if they're agitated, they'll be like, I don't want to sit next to this person. They're touching me, like they're sitting too close to me. They'll do that whole kid thing,
yeah.
and I'll look at them and go, it doesn't matter where you sit. Get out of my seat.
This is my chair,
Yeah,
though.
that's my chair.
It doesn't matter where you sit as long as it's not in my chair.
It doesn't matter where you sit.
Yeah,
It matters where I sit.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know that's like taught in a parenting class or a
It just
family
happens,
class,
right?
but it's like every family. It's
Yeah.
like you just kind of gravitate, and that's your spot.
Do you and
So,
Trudy have assigned seats, the 2 of you? You always sit in the same spot?
Yeah. So when we eat dinner with our family
Uh-huh.
or what, yeah, it's you sit down and you just kind of go to that spot.
The same one.
This past Tuesday, when we sat down, so our Caleb and his family come over on Tuesdays, and Ellie was at camp. It just threw the whole
Oh,
thing.
man, yeah.
Ooh.
It was like
Yeah.
the whole vibe was. I
Right.
was like, wait a minute.
What do we do?
Yeah, who's sitting? Why are you over
This
here?
messes
And it-
everything up.
Yep. So
It's like, I think it's always funny where, it's not dinner, but it's shotgun. So like the girls kind of have their own assigned seats in our cars. Is that Marilyn is obviously the littlest, so usually she has a car seat. We just graduated to the thing where you put the little
yeah.
pad on the seatbelt to lower it, and so she always has an assigned seat because it's wherever that is. And then the other girls will rotate, but Viv and Olivia are pretty close in age. They're 17 and 16. And so Viv usually, if Chris is not with us, Viv will ride shotgun. And Olivia will be like, can I ride shotgun this time? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. That's the privilege of the oldest. like that is I don't know why, but like
know,
that's
you-
just the way it works.
So yeah, it's just interesting seating arrangements and it's
Well,
just,
I-
it is part of our culture though. Like you
Yep.
mentioned being a teacher.
Yep.
So there are like assigned seats like in your classrooms, when you're growing up, and strategically, like teachers are like, okay, I know that student, I'm going to put them in a
Sure.
so we're kind of accustomed to having assigned seating.
Well, it also tells. So I teach in a college. And I don't have assigned seating, but it does tell me something about who sits in the front and who sits in the back. Like this, it sounds like a stereotype, but I've been teaching for 14 years, right? Like it is true that the better students tend to sit in the front 2 rows, right? And the kids
Preach it, sister, just like in church.
That's right.
So it is an interesting thing that like you think it's a stereotype, but it has proven to be true. And there's usually like 2 of them, right? And then everyone, people sit in the back. But
And that's an interesting thing. I'd be curious to see if it's causation or kind of association.
Correlation,
Yeah,
yeah.
correlation.
yeah,
Yeah, so I've had people say, "Oh gosh, it drives me nuts with people getting up and moving around at church." I'm like, "Sit in the first
in the
row,
front.
like
Yeah,
sit in
you
the
won't
first
see
2
'em.
rows.
You won't
and
see anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like-
You won't even know there's other people there.
so anyway,
Yeah. But we were talking about that this week because you shared the story where Jesus is talking and people are he's over at a Pharisee's house and they're clamoring for seats, and he talks, it's not necessarily a parable. It's just a story. He says, hey, if you go to a wedding, don't, sit in the front because you might be asked to move to the back.
right.
And so,
How embarrassing.
oh, I know. And so it's really like that comes up I'm sure for you and I a lot, where I don't know if you feel the same tension where every time I go to a wedding that I'm officiating, I'm like, I don't really know where I'm supposed to sit because my tendency is like, I don't know half these people sometimes at the wedding. So I'm like, I'll just go sit in the corner, and probably leave early. But, sometimes it's like, oh no, the DJ wants you to come pray and you're supposed to, they want you to do stuff. And so, but if I'm certainly not going to go to the bridal table and sit down and be like, sir, you're not in the bridal party. You need to move.
Yeah, that would be embarrassing. But the bridal, like that feast at a wedding reception, is a great example of like we understand there's that head table.
Yep.
And it's for certain people.
If
Don't
you don't
go
know,
there.
if
Yeah.
you don't know for certain
Yeah.
that you are at that table,
Yeah,
do
don't
not
go there. Yeah. So, but yeah, Jesus is saying we have a tendency to want to be in that place, that important place, that place where people recognize. I'm guessing that in this context, it was, ooh, if I can sit next to the Pharisee or next to Jesus or next to whoever that celebrity guest is, then people will think more highly of me because I may not be somebody, but I'm with somebody, and that's
Well, you even have the cultural significance where James and John's mother comes to Jesus and says, "Hey, can they sit on your right and your left?" Because that was supposed to be like your second and third in command. If you sit on the right, your second, and then third is the left.
yeah. And so today, maybe a little bit of a correlation. Tell me if I'm tracking correctly. It may not be like seats of honor, like at a dinner. But today it seems like the cultural reference would be like name dropping or, trying to associate with somebody who has a little more clout or credibility. And so we have a tendency, all of us, oh yeah, my friend. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you bumped into him one time,
Right,
and
right.
but now you're friends because it makes you feel more important.
Well, and especially today, I think a cultural trend would be on social media. So there's always a big deal when an influencer follows another influencer, or if you are followed by another influencer, or somebody ats you. Like somebody, if you make a funny video and somebody famous reposts your video, like I will see that person then make a reaction video and go, "This person reposted my this person added me, this person did," and it's like if you get mentioned by somebody, and you'll actually see influencers that they will travel to be on other influencers' content, and they'll shoot a bunch of content together so that you are now associating them with you, and it reveals your clout.
Yeah, everybody wants to feel important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. We all just how do we feel more important? What are those things that we can kind of highlight to other people? I think that's
And when you
for
mentioned,
everybody.
social media, so for a long time, maybe still, the tendency or the trend was to comment on something or be the first one to, post something,
Right.
even if it was inaccurate. Like you didn't know, like
Yeah.
I want to be the first one out there, so it looks like I'm in the know.
Sure.
Like I got this information, and again, it's not. Well, it is judgmental maybe, but it's judgmental on all of it. It's an indictment on
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
We all want to be in the know. We all want to be the one that says, "Oh, where'd you hear that?" Well, I heard it from this person who is really in the know. Well, no, they just heard it from somebody.
Well, I think it's culturally significant that, like we said, that this is happening. It's not happening, in the secular, not just in the secular world. In this particular story, it's happening at a religious leader's house. It is happening amongst Jesus and his apostles, and it's happening amongst these people. And so, you're looking at something going, I don't think that this is like, for our listeners, they might go, oh yeah, well I'm not an influencer. I'm not, and I'm like going, no. It happens in so many different circles that even in Christianity, I think sometimes we use things to elevate ourselves over each other and go, well, like I'm not picking it, but it's like, I got to have dinner at the pastor's house, or, name drop, like, well, I was hanging out at this conference and Craig Rochelle touched my hand. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's these clout things and name dropping where it's, even inside Christian communities and stuff, I think that we struggle with pride. And you were talking about the effects that are on the rise in culture of narcissism. Can you tell me a little bit about like what was narcissism, and like for our listeners, what were some of the things that you think are kind of contributing to that?
So the whole like narcissism obviously is not new.
Right.
So I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, but where we get narcissism
Discovered by James Narcissist.
Yeah, Narsa, whatever his name, Narsa, whatever that, and saw his reflection, right, in the water, and just again, that is a bit of the background to why I did the universe thing. When people think the world revolves around them, and that reflection of, ooh, look, it's true. I see myself. I really am important. But this rise in narcissism, I think, is just a result of the fallen world and on a track of getting us to where God is taking us as a where he's already laid out that in the end time. So we're headed somewhere.
Right.
And he says in the end times, like, you're going to know, you're going to see these things.
Right.
Narcissistic tendencies are going to be on the rise. So
Yeah.
what is contributing to that? Well, I don't know all the details other than God says, well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, here's what you're going to notice.
Right.
And so I think part of it is the culture. Currently, the culture is this culture of, again, we want to be validated.
Yeah.
I don't know that, again, I don't think that's a really new thing. But we have more avenues to express it, maybe more.
Like, you could hide it
outlets.
before, and now on social media, it's like, oh no, that dude is totally self-centered.
Yeah, does that? I don't know. Am I
Yeah,
tracking
and
right? Like, we
I
just
think
have more.
I think you are, and I think because Lucas kind of poses the question that we were going off of is, what do you think are what is leading to a rise in narcissism? And I would it's not new. First of all, you're referencing there's the Greek myth, the Greek legend about the guy whose name is Narcissus.
Narcissus.
Narcissus is the one who looks in the
Narcissus.
pool and sees his own reflection. Like, there's this whole kind of legend where that comes from. But I don't think it's rising. I just think we're becoming more aware, and people have, like you're saying, more avenues to express their own narcissism, express themselves, be more noticed, right? I just think our culture right now is really obsessed with labels. And so this is one that I hear a lot, where people are like, oh, so-and-so is such a narcissist. So-and-so is such a narcissist. My dad was such a narcissist. My mom was such a narcissist, right? Like, it's really accusatory, actually. People like to throw that around with other people. Well, I'm this way because so-and-so is a narcissist, and here's how that has affected me. And I think the more that we are able to just label things, the more we start to use them and hear them, and it becomes almost more common. Like, we think it's more common. It's not more common. It's been around, like you're saying, for a long time.
I think that mostly people in the culture have become aware of the term narcissism,
Yes, I agree.
and now it is overdiagnosed in some
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, and I think some of that has to do, of course, with we were just coming out of Pride Month, and so pride has actually been now turned into a good thing, and so now
Right.
you can't say, well, that person's prideful. You have to say he's a narcissist, and we're going to use a clinical term, when it's really pride and it's self-centeredness.
Yeah. So, the rise of it, I think, is, again, just we're more aware of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love. There's actually a teaching that we teach in Freedom. It's called "Self-centeredness is the source of all grief," and it's one of those things that you listen to and you're like, oh, and it's out of Proverbs 13:10, where it says, where there is pride, or where there is strife, there is pride, but wisdom is found for those who take advice. And depending on the different translations, of course, it could mean insolence, it could mean self-centeredness, but it's going, wherever this is present, it will only produce strife. And so the teaching is self-centeredness is the source of all grief, and just saying all strife. And you're going, oh, so it's this, like, because you could just as easily get into an argument with somebody and go, you know what, I'm not even going to argue. I'm not going to argue with you. You want to be, contentious. You want to be whatever. I don't need that in my life. Or you can be prideful and be like, I need to be right about this. And then it's going to, cause a bunch of grief. It's going to cause self-centeredness.
Yeah. So that ultimately, that is, an inward struggle that everyone faces of, when do you stand your ground and say, no, that is not correct? And when do you let things go? At what point does it become just arrogant and prideful? Can you be right but be wrong in the way that you present your
Yeah.
correctness.
Yeah.
And like, so it's a,
Well, and that's what I wanted to kind of ask that follow-up question for. If we want to define that, because I feel like lots of Christ followers struggle with this, because I have these conversations with people and they're going, well, I'm proud of what I do, but I don't want to be prideful. Or somebody was definitely wrong in this, like somebody came to me and they were in the wrong. Do I fight them on that, or is that pride? And you even have, since we mentioned him earlier, Moses, who writes about himself in the Bible. Now, Moses was the most humble man
who ever lived.
and I've heard a teacher say, that like that is actually the most humble thing that you could do, because if God says, "I want you to write that you are the most humble man on earth," and he's like, if you're like, "Nah, oh no," and so you had this false humility that people engage in, where somebody says, "Oh, I loved your singing this morning," you're like, "No, my voice, it's so terrible. I'm not," and you engage in false humility. So how do we know when we're actually crossing into pride? Like, when does it stop being, I want to be at this part of the table because my friend's up there, and like I want to be close to Jesus because you have Mary who's sitting at Jesus's feet, and he's like, hey, she chose the right thing because I'm teaching, versus I want to sit at Jesus's feet, or I want to be on his right hand side because of the clout.
yeah. Man, I wish there were a defining
really
line.
straightforward answer.
Yeah, like that there was this line that everybody knew. Oh, right there it is. Don't go over that line. So for me, and this is like something that I process through all the time when it comes to pride and humility. It's probably more pride than humility, honestly, and I dig deep. But like I'll catch myself regularly saying, "Oh no, I got this shirt on clearance. I gotta preference it with,
Yep.
yeah, this was a clearance. I didn't spend
that much
a
money.
lot of yeah. And so why do I feel a need to say that? Is it because I'm just so humble, or is there some prideful part of that wants to communicate that I want you to know that I am a very good steward of, like, I'm not wasteful. Where am I in that? Is it out of guilt that I don't want people to think that I'm spending and so it's a continual process I think everybody goes through. Yes, it's true. Everybody puts their pants on the same way. We're all. It's like some people just
some
pay
people
more-
make hit records.
Yeah, and some people pay a lot more money for their pants.
Right,
That they
right.
put on. It doesn't matter, but somehow we make it a big deal. It's like, no, this old cheap thing. It's like I got it on clearance.
I know.
And-
I had to laugh when you made the comment on Sunday about people with their name brands versus like Walmart, and I looked at my friend sitting next to me and I said, I'm actually really proud when I get a good deal at Walmart and
Yeah.
somebody compliments you on something you wore from Walmart and you're like, thanks, it's from Walmart. Like,
Yeah.
oh
so-
my gosh.
And again, in saying that, I don't care. Like, if you want to, have, like, there's some really nice shirts that have a brand on
Sure.
it. It's like,
There's nothing wrong with that.
no, and there's a reason why.
It's my mother. My mother goes to Marshalls all the time, and that is the essence of what she wants to go in there and find something that has a European
name
label.
brand.
Yeah, it's Michael Kors. It's something about that. But she got it at Marshalls, so
it's
she
$20.
yeah, it's $10. She's like, look how much money I saved. I'm like, but you spent money.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's, I don't know where that line is, because
Yeah.
sometimes it's just, hey, I like that style and that brand of clothes. It fits. There is something, with those designer, like, they are better made sometimes, but you're paying for that. And again, it's nothing wrong with it. It's, you got to look back to, why do I have to have that? Why is it so important? And it's really at the core, at the heart of it. And that's the thing about pride and humility. I'm the only one that knows if I'm being prideful or if I'm walking in humility.
Sure.
Nobody else knows that. I can present a false sense of humility, and you may not know it. And that's why I said, people can fool each other. You can't fool Jesus. Like, he sees through all that. And some of us have gotten really good at, like, persuading people that we're one way. We fool people.
I think we start to calculate and how do I say it? So like if you're going to a function like that, you're going to a dinner, you start to look at individual people and go, I'm more important than that person. And I may not be important to that person, but if I inch one chair up, they're not going to say anything because they're too polite. And you start to kind of, politicize it in your head and judge different people. I think that would be, for me, a real telltale sign. And I always think with myself and like my own family and stuff is I feel like I know when I'm in pride by how I react when I don't get it. So it's like if I go, oh, like I should get the last piece of pizza and somebody else like snatches it up, you're like, what the heck? It's not like, oh, yes, also they are entitled to that piece of pizza. I start to tell myself a story on the inside of why I should have been the one to get it. And then like it's almost like I don't know if I'm in pride yet until I don't get what I want, and then I'm going, that's when I start to know that was my motivation all along.
Yeah, so that, again, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I apologize. I was going to go down a whole track, and then I had to scrap it. Just didn't have time.
Ooh, I always like to know what's on the cutting room floor.
With our cultural, maybe it's always been, but the humble brag, that whole, like, we become masters of the humble brag, and, like, I saw one that, a nurse was saying, oh, darn, this giant diamond ring cut my rubber glove again. It's like, did you know, does that happen to you? No.
No, all you people with small diamond rings. Sorry, you don't know what I'm talking about.
And I think everyone has been guilty of that at some level of doing the humble brag.
I personally have never humble bragged. I don't know if you guys know that about me.
And so,
talk to me later.
Anyway, so there are so many forms and variations of pride and humility, and how we, how we deal with that. And so,
I think when you're talking, like you just brought up Mary sitting at the feet of Jesus, right? And Jesus says, "No, this is it," right? And versus, the apostles, the disciples going, can I be second at your right? Like the jockeying for power almost, right? Like, so again, the motivation I think is, your motivation, but sometimes we can lie to ourselves about our motivation. So really the only person who knows your motivation is the Lord, right? Like Jesus is the one who is going to know really the state of your heart. And so the thing about Mary is that she literally was only there for Jesus, right? She
did not care about anybody else.
She was not there for herself. She was literally just trying to get as close to Jesus as she could because she knew how much she owed him, right? She knew how much she couldn't repay him, right? She was just so much aware of him rather than herself, versus what you see the disciples doing is like, it's about me.
Yeah.
Right? It's about me. And like you're saying, we do that all the time. It's about me. It's about me.
So the whole social media thing. So, our family went to a homeless shelter so we could serve there. And I want to take a picture.
Right. And I want to tell you about
it. And post it and say, we had such a great time serving and we're, it's like, why did you have this desire to take a picture of yourself and post it so everybody else could say, look how awesome they are?
Sure.
Is it that humble brag? Is it I don't know, like what the motivation is, but
And when you say that, like, so two of our children, I will not name them so this doesn't go down in infamy. One of my
let's see, let me calculate which one.
One of my littles, like when she comes and she likes to snuggle, she likes to give me hugs and kisses, stuff like that. And so she'll just come downstairs and be like, hey, daddy, and she'll snuggle with her. And I will watch the other one watch that happen. And then all of a sudden she will come over and be like, move, I also want to snuggle. It's just like, and it's like, oh, you are not actually here for me.
You're here for you.
Well, you're here because you want an equal amount of this love that's happening right here. And it's like, it becomes about a competition between the two of them rather than the initial, like, because the other one was sitting right there. We were sitting in the living room the whole time, and she didn't have that need until the other one came up. And so I think a lot of times it's just a focus on other people. But I think that you talked about narcissism being And I think that our culture is this radical individualism. So it's about me, my needs, my identity. Like everything is focused not on how I am a part of the bigger picture. So like a lot of times we don't think about that. Hey, listen, I am one piece of this company. I am one member of the body of Christ. I am, one citizen of this town. Like we don't think of ourselves that way. We think of ourselves as, what is it? I'm the main character, all the time.
Yeah.
And so how do you see this radical individualism in the church, and how can, I wrote this question, what are some of the disciplines and practices that we have and teach as Christ followers that would protect us from this radical individualism that kind of leads us into narcissism?
Super simple,
Here, are you ready?
Tell us.
Write this down.
Tell us.
but extremely difficult.
Oh no!
Simple but not easy.
yeah.
I like
Okay.
complex but
So-
easy.
No.
Like it's given to us very clearly in Scripture, right? It is no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives in me, right? So
Yeah.
I am crucified with Christ. Right? So when we choose to crucify ourselves and live for Christ and Him alone, that's the answer, right? And if we can get to that place where I am crucified with Christ, like it is no longer me, it's Him, then when a situation comes up and you say, well, I may not like it, doesn't matter, I'm crucified with Christ. Well, this is going to benefit somebody else more than me, doesn't matter, I'm crucified with this. It's not about me. If we can get to that place, that's why I say getting there is the problem.
Right.
Right.
Like
Right.
knowing how to get there, like that's simple. And so I think that's the answer of realizing that the world does not revolve around me, that I am crucified. This is about Christ. It's about what His desire is, not about mine.
Right.
But we all have that battle back and forth all the time of what I want compared to with what God wants or what's best in general. So
Is your answer equally as simple but
yeah,
equally
complex.
as hard?
Well, I mean, I think it's really true. If you go through the scriptures over and over again, like even in the book of Proverbs, though, right? Like even Old Testament pre-Jesus, it was like, okay, fear of the Lord is, like I pulled up Proverbs 15:33. Fear of the Lord teaches wisdom, and humility precedes honor, right? Like, okay, so that's the fear of the Lord, like putting the Lord first. Like that's what's going to give you wisdom, and the wisdom to know how to behave and not be in pride. And then Jesus comes and He teaches that, right? Like you literally have to lay down your own life, right? Jesus says, consider others better than yourselves. Like think of yourself less, right? Like all these things that, okay, we hear them, we read them in the scripture, but gosh, to live that, right? Like even,
that's
you
the
know,
hard.
like in your marriage, in your parenting, living, putting others before yourselves. Like I just know as a mom, and I have a funny story about Lucas, but we may not have time for me to tell it.
Oh,
but
no.
as a mom, right, like so many moms have this kind of like martyr complex. Like I'm going to sacrifice all my wants and desires for the sake of my kids. I'm going to, put what I want aside, and I'm going to make sure my kids are happy. Or, sometimes in marriages, like your spouse, you say, I'm going to put what I want aside to make my spouse happy. But it's almost like I'm doing this because I have a martyr complex, not because I'm really thinking about the other person, right? Because I'm being like, oh, look at me.
Yeah.
Look how much I'm giving up for the sake of my family.
Well, it's not like you want to do that for them. You want to do that because of who it makes you.
Because of who now I can say, and this is the thing, like there's some stereotypes and some memes and reels about this stuff, but like I don't know if you guys have seen this, that when you have like an infant, right, and the parents are like, oh, I woke up this many times, it's like a competition about who got the least amount of sleep, right? Like, well, I woke up this many times and you, like, right? It's almost this like, competition of who has sacrificed the most, and that's right, that's still pride. Like that's still not what Jesus is talking about. And if you want to ask me my funny story about Lucas later, it's about pizza, and I will tell it to you at a different time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So obviously, we have to wrap this thing up, but there are so many facets
Yeah.
to the destructive tendencies that we engage in when it comes to pride and this false humility. And so one of the things that probably everyone wrestles with is this idea that what I'm about to tell you, if you will just do this, it's going to change. Like, it'll be the answer.
Sure.
And that we get to a place in ministry, it's this way, to stand in front of people and to say, this is what you should do. Just listen to what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like, I don't want to come across like I'm the expert, like I'm the one who, but I do have an answer. Like, I have a way.
It's right here.
Yeah. And so
It's in the Bible.
but then, like, I think in ministry, you have the tendency to say, okay, this is what you need to do. And if you don't do this, then you're stupid. Like, and you're,
Yeah.
and this is the way, the only way. This is how you have to do it. And then you're slipping in. Is that
Right.
Like, why am I saying that? Am I that confident, or am I prideful, or is there another way, or is there? Like, I don't know. It's so when you find that line, let me know, because I don't know where that. It's like,
And I think that I want to ask one last question as we're wrapping it up about Romans 12. I know that's, it's a strange verse for you.
yeah, is that the Old Testament?
Pastor Rick has never read Romans 12.
But before we get there, I just want to encourage people as well. I think one of the principles as Christ followers that we can follow that might keep you out of that. This is one of those things that, like, I know I've heard this so many times. So it's a pastor said this, and then I heard it on this, and then so it's like I always say that humility is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking of yourself less.
Right.
So it's just like focusing on other people and then when somebody goes, I like your shirt, go, oh, thanks. And then, but I love your shoe, like it's turning the attention away from yourself, not in a fault, but then when somebody compliments you, just going, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But living in community, I feel like, is the only way to get out of your head. And people are so isolated these days. Like, they just want to stay at home in their comfy clothes and not go out and it's like, if you can have relationships, like I've been really trying to process this out as far as discipleship goes. If you can have relationships in your life that you are being mentored, that you have somebody that you are being mentored, maybe somebody that you're evangelizing to a neighbor, and somebody that you are in a peer relationship that is accountability. It's like, that will keep you connected to other people enough that you will be like, I don't need to pray about my own problems. I need to pray for Joe, because in accountability today, he was telling me he's struggling. And I want to pray for my friend Nick, who needs to know Jesus Christ. And Lord, thank you for this person in my life who's a spiritual father and mother to me. And Lord, I really want to pray for Amy, who, like, she's got so much potential. And just doing these things, if you keep yourself focused on those, I think that you will see yourself in the community and not necessarily, be the center of attention. But you closed with Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love, honor one another above yourself. And so I just wanted to give you like a little bit of time. How can we apply that in a practical way to remain in humility?
I mean, what you just said, I mean, I can't say it any better than that. Just, it's in community.
Thank you.
It's sharing, it's just sharing your life.
Don't be prideful.
Oh, dang it.
Just sharing your life, just saying, I want to be real and authentic. And the challenge of that is you can't just be real and authentic and just open up everything about you to everybody, right? And so that's not what, I don't think that's what's suggested, that you just air all that you are to everyone, but that you do live in a community. Like, you have a group, and they know you, and you know them, and you're committed, and they can say to you, okay, I love you, and here's what I see. I love you, and I want to celebrate with you in this victory. And it's a give and take relationship. It's not a demanding of something, and it's not a withholding of other things. It's just community. You know me, I know you. And I think that is a key in the pride humility thing. because you can't fool the people that you're the closest to.
Let's say the minute you
Sure,
start being
yeah.
prideful,
Yeah.
your accountability person will be like, hold on there, buddy.
Yeah, wait a minute. I just saw you yesterday. That is not true. Yeah. So
I do love it. The NLT translation of Romans 12:10. It says, "Love each other with genuine affection and take delight
Yeah.
in honoring each other." And so, again, I think pride is so tricky because just when you think you've overcome pride is probably when you're the most susceptible, right, to that false humility or look how great I'm doing. I have not been prideful for 3 days, right? Like, so then you're in it again. But in this in Romans, right, take delight in honoring each other. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but like when you can genuinely, because you truly love someone, say something to them that brings them honor, that builds them up, that speaks life into them, and you see what that does for other people, right? Like you say something and you just see their reaction, right? Like you see how much that fills up that person. I feel like that's where it is, right? That's the taking delight in honoring each other, because then that makes me feel good that I could make them feel good. And that's not pride. Like that's just, oh, now it's love. This is what love, mutual love, I think is supposed to look like. And it's like, I see this sometimes with our kids, right? Where like they will say something that's like genuinely affectionate to each other. And you see how the other one responds. And then how that makes the one who said it feel like it's just that I'm always looking at that going, I feel like that's what it's supposed to be.
No,
right?
You see a couple of our girls playing together, and even the older ones with the younger ones, and you sit in the corner going, hey, "It's happening,
Right,
it's happening."
right.
Yeah,
Like you see that genuine affection, right? And that they are taking delight in each other, and that's bringing mutual honor, right? Like that's mutually beneficial.
And I think it brings
in all
honor to
parties.
the parent, and in this case,
Right.
the Lord. That brings honor to the Lord when we, as Christ followers, are.
I think that's such a beautiful verse, but you know,
Yep.
it's a thing to aspire to for sure.
absolutely. So,
Well, this week we hope that you guys enjoyed this, and we encourage you to find those relationships, take the focus off yourself, seek to honor each other. We hope that you commented below about where you want to be in the
Where do you want to sit at
dinner
the table?
This week you can catch us at newlifegardener.com if you want to tune in and catch up on a sermon series. If you missed one of them, we absolutely encourage you to do that. And then this week we're going to be continuing this series.
yes, we are. This is the last week, and we'll talk about the dinner that Jesus had with his disciples, and he breaks the bread and talks about his broken body and shed blood.
Awesome. So we encourage you to come join us here at 8:45 and 10:45, or find us online at the same address. We really enjoyed spending a 3/4 of an hour with you.
There you go.
You can spend the next 15 minutes reflecting on what has been said,
Or commenting,
or commenting.
leaving us a comment.
Leave us a like and subscribe. We're so glad that you are part of the 167 family. We'll see you next time here. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.